The latest Stephen King adaptation is like the third this year already.
It's too many.
And we're not done. There's like another one coming out.
Give it
soon.
a rest, Mr. King.
Mr. King. Hello and welcome to HAZMAT. The only show just making one video after another.
Just churning out, throwing at the wall, see what fucking sticks.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Harry.
And this is the monthly thing, the part of the show where we talk about every new film or series we watched in the last month, whether we recommend them, what we thought about them, and how we felt watching them.
Absolutely fucking knackered.
Tired.
Exhausted.
We may get into some spoilery territory, so we will recommend up front and then talk about the films, and you can decide whether you want to stick around to hear what we have to say. And you know what? All I can say is, I don't care if you do. It's your life. Go and live it.
Especially this time around, I think we're going to peak very early.
Oh, yeah. You can sort of click off after maybe 10 minutes. First up, one battle after another.
That's just our lives at this point, I think.
Jesus Christ. But despite that, this is a recommend from me.
And a recommend from me. And you know what? We're peaking early.
I think we both
Got to
say this.
It's our favourite thing.
Best of the month.
From the month.
We didn't sync that up very well.
No, we did it. Perfect.
Perfect.
ADR, double it up.
Yeah, we'll do that over.
Loop it, layer on top of each other.
Fix it in post. Yeah, absolutely. Far and away best thing in the month, actually, by some margin for me. Just fantastic. All round fantastic.
It's one of those things as well where I feel like even though September was kind of like a dry spell for film, I feel like it was very, very few and far between. It didn't take away from how good it is. I didn't feel like, oh, it's only the best thing because there was nothing else.
Right, by process of elimination.
I feel like I could have seen a whole bunch more stuff this month and it still would be number one.
Yeah, this would be my best of the month for probably the last few months, in fact. Just exhilarating, electric. Yeah, amazing film. The latest from Paul Thomas Anderson, the latest from Leonardo DiCaprio, and the rest of the fantastic cast here. Sean Penn, Chase Infiniti.
Who's been to Iraq, he knows what's going on over
He
there.
knows what's happening. Chase Infiniti, great name, by the way. And great performance here. A bit of a newcomer. But I'm excited to see what she's going to get up to next. I thought she was fantastic in this. And who else we got here? Teyana Taylor, Benicio del Toro, of course.
Benicio.
Everyone brought their A game, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we said coming out of it, Benicio is one of those ones who, bit of a sleeper, I guess, in terms of like great acting performances. I feel like anytime he shows up, he's always someone completely different.
Yeah.
But he's never sort of one that's named in the same breath as like someone like Leonardo, who's like an all-timer.
Yeah, he's an underrated guy, because I think he's rarely leading, unless I'm wrong.
He's normally more of a character actor and sort of a supporting role, yeah.
But he does, I mean, like I say, just brings his all to everything he's been in, and definitely does so here. I loved his kind of cool character. Like, he kind of kept calm, which contrasted nicely with DiCaprio's very anxious character. That comedic duo kind of anchored the film in the middle. I thought that was really nice. It gave kind of a buddy comedy dynamic at the center of this storm that was happening. So yeah, I love that.
Would have liked to see more of it. I think that's such a highlight, just that whole extended sequence of him sort of doing everything. It's like you said, he's the more competent, has everything together. Like, for him, it's just a process. It's okay, here's what we're doing. Like, he's got everyone around. Like, it's a very like a tight-knit community, so he sort of knows everyone around him. Is like, okay, you're doing this is what we're doing, while Leonardo's just fucking bumbling his way through.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sequences in the film. Yeah, that extended kind of escape sequence where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is just trying to find a phone charger and trying to remember this like code for the revolutionary, and the entire time Benicio is just like cool as ever, organizing this entire like escape and this like exodus of like immigrants out this all these shops and stuff. Like, what he achieves in the same time as Leo just gets a phone charger is just like, it's just constructed so well.
It's the part afterwards, I think, is one of my favorites. Like, the multiple shots of the skateboarding kids like leading them across the rooftops, and they're sort of like doing all these jumps and like parkour moves and like easily clearing rooftops, and then you have Leonardo following behind, like struggling over walls, and like climbing down ladders, and
just bumbling along. Yeah, it was so cool to kind of see him lean into a more bumbling, haphazard sort of character. I feel like he doesn't do that sort of thing a lot. Like, even just comedic roles are quite rare in his filmography. He's so well established in doing these like long biopics, dramas, like really heavy stuff, that just to see him play such a comedic role so well, I think was quite refreshing actually from him. Like, I always look forward to a DiCaprio role, like whatever it is. You know, I feel like, especially the last few years, everything he's put out has been of such good quality, because he does like one every 2 or 3 years at this point, that it feels like an event when he's bringing a new one out. So it's like, what's he going to bring to this one? I'm always like really excited to see that. So yeah, this really delivered.
He seems quite like self-aware of the fact, like, obviously he's getting on in years now, and he knows he can't be sort of like the young, like, action-oriented kind of hero anymore. And like, from that point, you kind of, there's two ways you can go about it. You can kind of be the grizzled veteran who is still sort of like capable of going, or you do like you do here, and it's like the past is like past your prime, but still like thrust into the middle of it, even though like your best days are behind you. Yeah, like I said, I don't know who DiCaprio's agent is, but they should be getting all the money in the fucking world, because it seems like he just doesn't miss. Like,
exactly.
Everything he's in like is a huge, like you said, it's a huge event, and it's usually pretty like high quality as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only non-critically acclaimed thing he's done in recent years is Don't Look Up. I personally quite enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed him in it. There's a lot of flaws with that film, but I feel like everything else you think of, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like The Revenant, Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, I just love seeing what he can really bring to a role, because it just feels like such a big moment every time he brings something out. But I quite like that this film didn't feel as much like a Leonardo DiCaprio film as I thought it would. And I think that is because the rest of the cast here, and such a wide-ranging plot and such great like dynamics, and the direction on this was fantastic. Like, everything else contributed towards this as a whole, so it doesn't feel as much like a DiCaprio vehicle as I thought it might. And I think what contributes to that is the fact that his character isn't actually like the hero of the story. He doesn't get like the big save the day moment that you think is going to come the whole time. His heroic moment comes from like the fact that he's taught his daughter to survive in these situations and brought her up, and so she can kind of survive on her own without him rescuing her, which I thought was quite a nice touch. It sets up the whole time that he's trying to find her, that he's going to be the one that finally comes and saves her at the, that crucial moment, but you don't get that, which I think is like quite a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a very non-traditional way. The whole setup comes from the fact that it's his past, it's his previous dealings that set up the conflict that happens throughout. So the traditional story would be he becomes the hero who has to make up for what he's done. But it's really it's sort of everything just sort of resolves itself in the end through like a series of coincidences, or like things just kind of intertwining and intertangling, and they just sort of all mishmash together. Like, certain characters that you thought were bad sort of grow conscious towards the end, and then like the problems are solved by other people and sort of out external forces, rather than just one person kind of taking on the system and winning in the end of the day. Yeah,
the structure is so like relentless, but in such a good way. I think this film grips you from the very first scene and doesn't let go, but it doesn't feel like it's too much. Like, we've talked about films being quite relentless in the past, and I do quite like when a film is exhilarating like that. Recent examples I can think of is like Caught Stealing was kind of that vibe, where it doesn't really stop. Like September 5th was that sort of thing. Like, those films where you're really in it for the whole time, but they always run the risk of it just being exhausting to watch. Whereas I think this, I mean, it's like over 2.5 hours, and it flew by, because it just doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel tiring or exhausting to watch. Nothing is too strung out. Nothing is too overplayed. I think everything is paced just so perfectly that just you can't take your eyes away from this.
Yeah, I think because that was a thing I think we kind of criticized September 5th about a little bit, but then what it really kind of boils down to and relies on a lot is having that extensive cast of characters and performers where each one is very unique and identifiable in their own role, which this has. Like, you have obviously Leonardo's character, and then Sean Penn in the villain role, completely different, like suitably like intimidating and creepy, but also
Yeah.
like very like cold and calculated at the same time.
But also like quite pathetic, I thought, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like he's got that kind of like man-child vibe to him that I think is, you know, a reflection of a lot of people of the current times.
And then we said like the comic relief kind of with Benicio's character and everything going on with him. You know, the sympathetic victim, played by Chase Infiniti's daughter, is kind of the one who's embroiled in all of this through sort of no fault of her own. Yeah, there's just enough like variance that we can kind of back and forth and flip between all these different characters, and it's a refresher each time they switch perspective.
Yeah, it keeps you hooked on each one. There's never a point where I'm like, oh, now we have to like spend some time with this character. It's always like, oh yes, we're back here. Like, what's going on with these people? What's going on with this group? Everything just fits together so perfect. I've been familiarizing myself a bit more with Paul Thomas Anderson recently. As kind of plots go, this is one of his more straightforward ones. He said that he doesn't come up with endings. He writes characters and just writes them until an ending emerges.
It just kind of comes about naturally.
Yeah, and so that's, I think, why a lot of his films feel like it's kind of stuff just happening until it reaches a climax, which is in a way what this felt like. But in such a established way where it doesn't seem like it's made up as he went along or whatever. He's got such a sort of unique style of direction. He uses a lot of intense close-ups, a lot of long shots, and those are all things that I quite like and I think really add to the intensity, and especially with a high-octane plot like this as well.
A lot of deserts.
Tell you what we should talk about is the chase sequence towards the end with the roads. I genuinely felt like we were on a roller coaster at certain points. The way they use the cameras,
the
flow,
of the hills,
and almost like an ocean, like when it was kind of bobbing and weaving up and down. I mean, just a masterclass, to be honest, in cinematography. To sound very film bro, it's a masterclass in cinematography.
Another banger from Mr. Anderson.
Hell yes. You can put that quote on the poster, by the way. A masterclass, another banger, HAZMAT.
Good shit.
Real good shit.
Real
good shit. I think this is going to be very high on a lot of lists this year. This feels like a modern classic to me. I know it's been out like a day, but this really does feel like an important film, and I do think it's going to go down. That's a good one. So, you heard it here first.
I bet I'll get fucking snubbed at the Oscars, though.
Do you think? Yeah, quite possibly. Anderson, it does quite well, I think, though. The actors tend to get noms and awards, I think. I think that's something as well, is he brings out performances in certain actors. Like, he brings out the best in a lot of actors, I find.
It's not a biopic, though. That seems to be the hot thing at the moment, is the biopic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Or films that seem like a biopic but aren't, like The Brutalist.
Yeah.
Next up, The Long Walk.
Oh, they should have called it The Long Talk with the way these people were fucking yapping the whole time.
Yapping!
They wouldn't shut their
the
fucking
Yapmeisters. This is a recommend from me.
And I'd say a recommend from me.
A fairly strong recommend as well, I'd say. I did enjoy this. The latest Stephen King adaptation, it's like the third this year already.
It's too many.
And we're not done. There's like another one coming out.
Give it
soon.
a rest, Mr. King.
Mr. King.
You sell out.
I think there's also a TV show on right now that is him as well, isn't there? So we're talking like 4 or 5 this year alone. But yeah, I mean, as Stephen King adaptations go, this was pretty great. Thriller. Not quite horror, but dystopian sort of vibe.
It's elements of horror, but like, it's one of those like Death Game style type things that don't quite fall into horror, but where the horror elements are sort of grounded in like the fact that we're actually probably not that far away from them coming up with ideas for like this.
Right, yeah. It didn't seem a million miles from home, pun not intended. Interestingly, this was directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed the Hunger Games franchise as well, so he clearly specializes in like battle royale style dystopian games involving like kids and young people. It was sort of a character study as well, hidden inside this thriller. You really get to know these guys on this journey, which makes a lot of their deaths hit really hard along the way. I think it says a lot about enduring hardship and how small moments of friendship or support and humanity are kind of what gets us through those times, and kind of the little beacons of light in such a hard to deal with world sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about like how well they kind of structure and how well they did frame and like present a lot of these characters, and that it does hit you quite hard when some of them die, even though you're told right from the off that only one person is going to survive this. You're given that information right from the start, and even then it still kind of like hits you as it goes on, even though you're kind of thinking like, well, you know, they're not exactly like a main character. We kind of know the structure of these kind of movies at this point, that we have our main characters, they're going to be the ones making it to the end. But yeah, I think they did such a good job of kind of giving these like people like fleshed out narratives and backstories and wants and desires, and enough so that it does hit you quite hard when you lose. Even some of the ones who start off like quite unlikable and seem like they're framed to be villains, and then turn around towards the end, and it's still like this very like melancholy kind of feeling you get from it.
Yeah, they sort of start revealing who they really are and what they really want when they're like right at the end of their rope, pushed to their absolute limits, and that's when you start to see people for who they truly are. And it's impressive to like reveal to us these characters when there isn't a break in this film. Like, you think of Hunger Games, you think of Squid Game, the ones that have similar structures of like one winner. There's moments of rest and respite within that. Like Squid Game, they've obviously got the bedrooms where they can chat and stuff. You know, Hunger Games, there's nights where they can kind of camp out and stuff. This was just like they couldn't stop. Obviously, that's the idea of the game and the walk.
You can't stop walking at any
You
point.
literally cannot stop walking. And so I think it's great to still be able to have those moments, though, those little moments where they bond or they have like a little laugh, a bit of banter while the challenge is like ongoing. Because, like, you know, there's obviously going to be a lot of comparisons to Hunger Games, Squid Games. But like I say, when they're in the action, there's the human moments and then there's the action moments. Whereas this kind of combined the two, where they were kind of going on at the same time. I think the relentlessness of the concept really, like, revealed who these characters were in a very natural way.
Yeah, especially sort of, there's some bits of dialogue here and there that really kind of nail it home. Like, they're talking quite casually about it, sort of as it starts off, when there's still like a lot of them, but it's like, okay, but now there's like 40 of us left. It's when that number gets smaller and smaller that it really kind of starts to hit of like, yeah, this is like real, and this has happened, and we've been through this. And by the time you kind of get to this natural conclusion, you kind of start thinking about like the violence you've seen and the deaths you've seen, and how a lot of it is just goes by like without any sort of fanfare. It just sort of happens. Because I think there's a scene, it's when they get to I think it's when they have to walk up the hill, isn't it? You just kind of, I think that is so well done in that we know they're not shying away from the violence because we've seen them kill some people already, but it's almost more visceral in the way where you don't see it, you just hear the gunshots and like the speakers saying like, this person's been eliminated, this person's out of the game.
Yeah, each death they manage to hit so hard, and they hit even harder the longer you go. And it is because that last little group of characters we at this point know so well, and they know each other so well, even though there is still kind of some rivalries and some friendships left within the kind of last squabble by the time it gets down to, like you say, like 8-10 of them, whatever. And that's when the deaths really start to hit the hardest. But I think they did well in making each and every death almost feel just as hard as well, even near the start. There's a immediate sense of camaraderie, rivalry, like brotherly love, like even from the get-go, that I think give the right amount of impact. I think each death, even at the beginning, because apparently the book was, you know, a bit of a statement on the Vietnam War and kind of getting drafted for that, because the concept is they all volunteer, but they all do it. It's not really voluntary. They're all duped into believing they want to do it, and it's serving their country and serving a purpose. So it's obviously, you know, a big statement on that, although obviously, you know, kind of national service and things are less prevalent these days. But I do still think it is that statement on being told we have to represent our country and be proud of our country, despite the fact that all our systems are fucking crumbling around us, and like our politicians and leaders are failing us, and yet we're still told that we have to be proud and upstanding citizens. And it's like, you know, what's the fucking point if they're not going to do it? So yeah, I sort of took that from it as well, because we don't really go into detail about why the world is the way it is, what happened. There's mention of a big war.
Mention of war, yeah.
But I like that it didn't really build the world out too much. It stayed very much about these characters, but it gave just enough of an idea of what had happened in the outside world, and gave us a bit of a sliver of that, just to make the fact that they're there just hit so much harder.
It's about the visual. A lot of it's about the visual storytelling. I feel like that point you raised, Because obviously the only one that sort of mentions, or the only one who was pushing this idea of it being like a good thing and it's honorable for your country is, the Major, who is set up to be this very like obvious like militaristic fascist like dictator type figure. And then you contrast that with every other person they see along the way, like the bystanders watching them as they do the walk, and it's like they're watching a funeral procession.
Yeah,
like
a
all their
slow
reactions
march.
are so visceral. Yeah.
It's the barren landscapes as well. I think whenever at any point in like a happy-looking, bustling city, or like it's all these just barren fields, like sort of plains and large, wide, like crumbling roads as well. And there's never like traffic. There's like they just walk past like a burning car at one point, and it's just this kind of desolate wasteland of a country. And yeah, like you say, there's those occasional little bits of audience along the way, like one old woman or like a little disparate family at the end. We should talk about the performances. Mark Hamill as the Major was fantastic. I like seeing him show up and stuff. He was in Life of Chuck as well last month. He's kind of great in that dark villain role, isn't he, these days? And Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson as well as Ray and Pete here at the centre of this film.
The heart and soul.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Carrying the
emotional anchor that allow us to kind of root for them and their friendship that very quickly evolves and blossoms throughout the film. Interesting thing I've found is there's a Stan Twitter for them.
Oh,
already.
Yeah, nice.
Which is just like, how beautiful.
Wonderful.
Like, people are so enamored by two characters in one film. They've dedicated an entire account, and multiple people have done this. I mean, they're obviously stressing the gay undertones. That's kind of their vibe, what they're going for. Is that's what the Twitter people are after.
Boys supporting boys.
They want them kissing. They don't care about dystopia.
It's just boys supporting boys.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought they were fantastic. They really really sold these characters, and the chemistry between them I think worked really well. We saw David Johnson in Alien Romulus recently. He's kind of an up and comer, and then Cooper Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, is one of the good Nepo babies. So we're fine.
It's one of the only gripes I had performance wise is obviously like they are so solid throughout, but the accents obviously like I don't know how authentic they are with the accents, but they are so strong to the point that like for us, at least in this country, it's quite hard to tell what they're saying a lot of the time. So there's probably like little snippets, like little bits of storytelling that you're slightly missing out on. But
yeah, maybe the sound mixing in our screen wasn't too great. Sometimes a film can get like so bassy sometimes in these cinema screens that you're just like, huh?
What? Huh? Fuck you, Stephen King.
You write so much. Too much, some would say.
Too much. Have a holiday.
Can't keep up.
Have a fucking holiday, mate.
Come on, mate. You're retirement age now. Sip break. Next up, A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey.
Sometimes it's the films with the biggest cast that can make you feel the most alone.
That's a pretty good me, to be fair. I'll give you that. Or whatever he fucking said. Now, this is one of those ones where I'm kind of in the middle, and when either of us are in the middle, we tend to agree it falls into not. Because if we're not fully sure about a recommend, then it's probably veering into not recommend territory. So yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to go with a not recommend, but it's up in the upper tier of that.
I'd say not recommend in the sense that like there's elements I like. There's certain scenes that I like, but the film as a whole I feel like doesn't quite mesh the right way.
I think tonally a bit weird. It's hard to kind of place my finger on what was wrong with this. There's obviously a lot of fantasy elements. It's about these two that meet at a wedding and end up exploring each other's most traumatic or fond memories from childhood, earlier adulthood, and kind of exploring those in a literal way, finding these doors. There's a GPS telling them what to do. It's a very sort of loosey-goosey sort of fantasy concept. It maybe doesn't feel all the way thought through. For me, maybe that's an issue I have with it. Like, I'm all up for a film just being vibes sometimes when it has to be. But this one felt like it needed a bit of an anchor, a bit more of a structure or a reason. It just kind of felt like it never really clicked into place, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like there's several different ideas here, but they never fully commit to any of them. Like, obviously it's got like the fantasy elements, and it doesn't quite go like that fantastical. At the same time, it's sort of like it's a traditional rom-com, but it doesn't quite feel like as cheesy or as soulful as like another like traditional rom-com would. And it's also got that element of like it's sort of like a drama of like them exploring like their emotional past and how it's affected them as people today, but then again like doesn't fully commit to it.
Yeah, a bit of a muddled mess, I think. It's sort of trying to be a bit faux deep as well, I think, and I don't know if it ever quite gets past the surface of what it's trying to do, other than like, oh, I've been a bad person at times in my life, I'm a bit ashamed of it, I need to grow and accept myself and improve myself. But I mean, it sort of clicked to me halfway through that it's, I think, very much metaphorical. I don't know if we're supposed to be literally thinking they're walking through doors, experiencing these places. It feels to me like a metaphor for two people getting to know each other and learning to trust in each other when they've failed to trust others in the past or failed to open up emotionally to people, and being able to do that with each other, I think, for the first time, and revealing certain things. So yeah, that's kind of where I felt like it was going.
It is quite on the nose, I feel like.
Exactly,
the door metaphor, like
Right.
obviously the whole thing of like one of the first lines you hear is him talking on the phone, is David talking with his parents on the phone, and his dad going like, just be open, son, life is better when you're open.
Yeah.
Completely unprompted.
Yeah.
Nothing to sort of lead into
Just
that. He
spouting
just
quotes.
says it. Yeah, it is that idea of like the door metaphor is like quite apt in that like
Yeah.
you're gonna connect more and have a generally like have a better experience in life if you're open with your thoughts, your feelings, and how to process them than if you shut yourself off and away from everyone else, lock yourself away.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain scenes in this that I think are pretty good.
Yeah, we should go into the pros, maybe. Of the
Yes,
film.
yeah. So even though I would have liked them to go even further with it, him recreating the musical number from like his high school years, but just like adult him, and then Margot Robbie's character joining in as well. So like David and Sarah both, like she kind of completes the musical and prompts him to continue after he's just like poured his heart out and tried desperately to try and remedy something from his past or fix something from his past, even though he knows that like he knows exactly how it did go, and he knows it's gonna hurt him again.
Yeah.
He tries to stop that from happening, and then she kind of sees how vulnerable he is in the moment and provides sort of the relief to that.
Yeah, and in a similar way, I love the scene where Margot Robbie's reunited with her mother, who passed away when she was a teenager. Despite the fact that in this memory, her mother saw her as a child, sort of being able to talk to her mother about things she never got to talk to her about memories that happened after her passing. And I thought that moment was really well done and really, I think, cathartic for the character and the audience. And I do like that thing that is in both of those scenes where they're a different age to what they are that we're seeing, but other characters are seeing them as a different age. That's always a fun device, and a nice touch that she's watching Big as well, which is like that concept basically. So yeah, there's a few really nice sweet scenes in here, I think, but it's a film that had a lot of potential, and I just don't think it ever quite cracks the surface of what it's trying to do. Yeah, some sweet moments here, but nothing substantial, I think, to take away from it that we don't already know.
It's weird to think that for a movie that is largely about two people connecting, I think some of the strongest scenes are those like couple at the end when they're separated. Her reconnecting with the mother, and then even David having to sort of stand in the shoes of his own father and reassure like a younger version of himself and tell him exactly what he needs to. And he gets like more context as the movie goes on about like just how sort of important his parents have been and just how much they care for him. And
he learns about like his heart defect as a child that he never knew about, and their histories unravel around them, and they learn things about each other and themselves. And I think the reason they're better in those separate scenes is that Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie are two of my favourites. I think they're both brilliant in a lot of stuff they've done. I don't know if they had the chemistry to pull this off though. Maybe like it just seems like it's two big Hollywood names that they've shoved in together. Like I say, I think they're both absolutely great, but it just felt a bit forced. And so maybe that's why when they were apart, it kind of felt like different movies.
yeah,
Where they were both in better movies and then they came back together again. So yeah.
it did feel like they were sort of playing two completely different characters who then had to sort of act like they understood where the other one was coming from. The movie doesn't really sort of pick up until quite a substantial amount into the runtime, because the opening, I don't know, 20-30 minutes of this, before they even start sort of go on the journey and do a lot of the fantastical stuff, is them just talking at the wedding. And whereas like One Battle was a nearly 3-hour movie that felt like half the time, this was an under 2-hour movie that felt like double.
Yeah. Yeah, it dragged a bit. We maybe didn't get them established enough in the beginning to really make the rest of it work and make us care about them or their relationship. It felt a bit sort of like a mirror to Materialists to me as well. I got similar vibes where it was trying to do a lot of things and had a lot of characters that didn't quite mesh, but really wanted to be this kind of deep thing. I don't know, yeah, a bit of a slog at times, I think. They also like just didn't seem to give a shit that they were going through doors into their memories. Like, I think they just accepted it so quick, which again, I mean, leaning towards it being a metaphor, so maybe that's why, like, they're not actually doing that. It's more about them discussing things and reliving things with each other and through each other than actually going through these doors. But it just felt a bit like jarring, I think, to just have them. It'd be like, oh, this is the lighthouse I visited that one time, and it's like, are you not freaked out that you just went through a door in the forest?
But then even with the metaphor thing, it kind of weirdly contradicts with a bit later on where, you know, there is sort of like a conflict between them, and then she's like, oh, like, what does it matter? Like, this isn't real. None of this is real. And he's like, oh, it feels pretty real to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's some weird stuff that kind of contradicts other stuff, but
yeah, I think maybe they didn't really decide
whether they wanted it to actually be real or not, and so they kind of tried to do it all. Like, it's up to the audience thing to make up.
Yeah, but then it's like,
when you kind of put it under a microscope and scrutinize it to any extent, then it doesn't hold up well enough. Yeah.
So hey ho, we took a big, bold, beautiful journey to the cinema, and we weren't satisfied.
They were, though.
But they were. They got a happy ending.
They got a happy ending. That's all that matters, I guess.
That's all that matters, isn't it?
You know, the Hollywood A-listers get their happy ending.
Listen, we saw One Battle after another literally right after this in a double bill, so I forgot all about it by the time we came out.
That's true, that was our happy ending.
Yeah, that was our happy ending. Next up, The Thursday Murder Club. A recommend from me, but a light one.
Yeah, I think just about veers into recommend territory for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, based on the Richard Osman bestseller. We both love Richard Osman.
We love Richard Osman.
We love House of Games. We love Pointless.
House of Games. We love Pointless. We love House of Games Night. We love Pointless Celebrities.
Celebrities. And yeah, I did read the book. You haven't read the book, I don't think.
Not yet, no.
I read it like when it came out, like I think it was 2020 it came out. He's done about 50 since then. He's fucking churning those things out like there's no tomorrow. But to be honest, I couldn't remember that much about it. You know, I've read a lot since then.
Yeah, so it's still kind of fresh going
into, yeah, exactly. So I was still quite fresh going into this. I couldn't quite remember how exactly the plot played out. I could just sort of remember the characters and the vibe. So yeah, it was quite a fun watch, I think. A fun murder mystery with the twist that the detectives are a group of old people in a retirement home. You know, real sort of quirky Britishness to it. I think it represents the kind of Britain that like Downton Abbey or like even the Bake Off represent, that Americans view us as.
Yeah, is the incredibly like contrast of the macabre subject matter, but with like the wholesome undertones of like what's going on, and how it is kind of a story about all, you know, even though they are past their prime and in their old age, like they've got like a lifetime of skills and knowledge behind them to sort of outdo a lot of like the current experts in the field. Exactly, yeah, and they get away with certain techniques and going places. They get away with murder. Yeah, the concept is they can sort of get away with things and talking to people because they're old, and you know, you don't notice old people, and you don't suspect them. So it plays on that concept nicely. I've heard it called cozy crime, this genre as well. The sort of quaint thing, like I say, it's the macabre and mixed with the quaint Britishness, where it's, you know, it's either posh or cockney. That's like kind of the stereotypical British counterparts. But my phone has fallen off. No blooper. No. I want the outtakes reel this year to just be full of stuff like that. Whoops. Sorry. not even like funny lines that didn't make the edit. It's just small things. It's like, tiny little. Oops. Sorry. Interesting casting here. I was like fairly happy with it. I think Helen Mirren was a good fit for Elizabeth. Yeah.
Celia Imrie did a fairly serviceable job as Joyce. She wouldn't have been my first choice, bars. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but there we go.
Fucking hell.
But my first choice would have been my parents' next door neighbour. So
Yeah, fair.
I just imagined her as my parents' next door neighbour.
Nepo.
Who was a lovely old woman.
Nepotism.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley as Ibrahim, I think, was, great, inspired choice. And here's the controversial one. Pierce Brosnan as Ron. My personal pick, just from the character in the book, I would have picked Ray Winston, because Ron to me was a lot more of a kind of sweaty working man
class,
Cockney
like,
kind of guy,
yeah.
which I think Pierce Brosnan is a bit too suave, I think, to pull off fully. But you know what, he gave it a good go.
I mean, they had the whole. I guess they kind of knew that in a way, and they have the whole bit of him like. Yeah, you know, where they make him like dirty himself up and make himself look a bit like rougher, and that's kind of like, I imagine, a little nod to like, oh, this is probably like what people were imagining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think he leaned into the comedy well enough, you know. He didn't phone it in, at least. Like,
No,
you know, it was an interesting casting choice, but it's not like he just came and did it. I think he really did seem to be into this, which I think, you know, made it work against all the odds. Everyone just seemed to have fun, I think, in this one. It was one of those, everyone, I think, brought their A game, despite it being, you know, a bit of a smaller thing, a bit of a cozy drama. But yeah, David Tennant as well, great in this.
Quite like the trope that seems to be building at the moment if you're doing a British crime caper, that, you know, you have to have the police be a squad, like a boys' club of bumbling, incompetent men, and then there's the one female officer who is like, it knows what's going on, because we had it with Wicked Little Letters.
Exactly.
Pretty sure the new Wallace and Gromit had that as well going on.
Yeah, you're right. As an adaptation, I think it tonally was a good fit.
Hits the right marks.
Yeah, it was kind of
it was the
bright, quirky Britishness, I think, that Osman has nailed in the books. They changed a bit of the plot, I think, towards the end. I don't know if they're gonna go forward with the sequels here or not. Time's ticking. These actors are pretty old. They better get going if they're gonna. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But you know what? It was a fine enough adaptation, I think, in my book, and it was just an enjoyable time.
I think it's always an endearing story that pushes the whole, just because you're old doesn't mean you're like no longer capable of doing these things.
Exactly.
Like last year, I think it was like Thelma was one of my favorite movies from that year, and again, it's like another like quite good, serviceable kind of movie that pushes that narrative, and yeah, it's just fun.
I hope he's proud of it. I hope he likes it,
and I hope he comes. Over here for a visit one day.
Richard Osman.
And then he can dwarf the both of us.
He can sit on here. He's just off the screen. Pretty good stuff.
Pretty woman.
Walking down the street. Walking 100
Pretty Little
miles.
Liars.
Pretty Little Liars. Big Little Lies. Pretty Little Liars. Small things like these.
White
Big
Lies.
Bold Beautiful Journey.
Big. That's why they put big.
Oh.
Big. Do you think like the whole thing is in there? Like they watched the movie Big. Maybe there's some like bold laundry detergent somewhere.
Margot Robbie's beautiful.
Margot Robbie's beautiful. The letter A is probably just in there somewhere.
There.
And then they listen to Journey.
Yeah.
Probably
That's how it all came together. That's how it all came together.
Probably there somewhere.
Next up, highest to lowest. I think similar to Big Bold Beautiful Journey, this is a not recommend, but there's a lot of elements I liked about it. I just think it didn't all quite come together here. This is the latest from Spike Lee and Denzel Washington, and I think that is sort of a recipe for a great film. I think like that should work immediately, no matter what's going on. But there's just something about this that doesn't quite work. So it's a remake of High and Low, which I think is in turn based on a novel called The King's Ransom, and it's about a rich executive who his driver's son accidentally gets kidnapped because the kidnappers mistake him for his own son, and they want to get a ransom out of him. So yeah, sort of a fun, exhilarating sounding plot, but there's something really weird about... Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about the score. The score is like a Hallmark Christmas film, and it's happening the whole time.
So perfect.
So beautiful.
So perfect.
Tear-jerking stuff. They're having like conversations about these boys being kidnapped while there's like these strings and
Soft
piano in the
guitar.
background, but not in like a dramatic way. It's like a
Just ambient,
like,
yeah.
and it just tonally makes it really odd, to the point where like I thought something else might have been playing on my TV accidentally or something. I was like, is this the right copy of the film or what? Like, what the fuck's happening? So that was my kind of first gripe with it. My second gripe is that just everyone around Denzel isn't really doing great here. Jeffrey Wright's in this, and I think he's pretty serviceable. I do like a bit of Jeffrey Wright, but there's a lot of people in this that are just, I don't know if it's just next to Denzel they look bad, because like Denzel is so fantastic, and he's bringing his A game, but it's not quite enough to carry it. But later on, A$AP Rocky comes along. He hasn't done much acting as far as I know, but it was kind of cool to see him do a bit, and I think he was one of the few that kind of held his own, surprisingly. There's literally only 2 scenes in this where there's a couple of phone scenes, but there's actually a couple of scenes where they're really facing off in person, and those are far and away my favorite in the film, and I think really capture what the film is trying to be in those moments, similar to Big Bold Beautiful Journey, where there's a couple of scenes that we think really capture what tonally they were trying to do. It's the same here. Like, the intensity and the acting and the back and forth between them in those moments, I think worked really, really well. And I just kind of wanted more of that, and the film didn't quite give it to us. The story is gripping enough, I guess. Like, it was a fun ride. Yeah, it's, again, I can't quite put my finger on what was wrong with it. There was just something a bit off about it. It just didn't quite come together, I think, when sort of all the pieces were there and it didn't quite all click into place, which I think just made it all the more surprising, because like Spike Lee is such an accomplished director and Denzel is such an accomplished actor, that to have them together in a remake of like a classic crime film as well just felt like it should have been a lot better than it was, I think. So I think the film, it finds its footing a bit in the second half when A$AP Rocky gets more of a presence and they get to, that dynamic kind of comes into play, but the scenes and the build up before then didn't quite work for me. So
What you're saying is that this is not a Spike Lee joint.
certainly not a Spike Lee joint.
Next up, The Conjuring, Last Rites. Or should I say The Conjuring, Last House on the Left?
Oh, Jennifer Lawrence!
No, I know I shouldn't, because it's nothing to do with that, actually.
She's not even in that one as
nothing.
well.
No.
She's actually not in that one.
Is she on The House at the End of the
I
Street?
think House at the End of the Street is Jennifer Lawrence as well.
Yeah.
So that whole thing was a mess.
Right off the bat, I'd say probably not a recommend if we're just talking general film sense, which is, I think, that's our general sort of measure for these things. The only way I'd give this a recommend is if you've seen the other ones and you want to kind of like finish the series.
Complete it.
Yeah, so this is the 4th and seemingly final entry in the mainstream, like the mainline Conjuring series. But I'll believe that when I see it. I feel like The Conjuring has kind of become enough of a household name now that you can just kind of slap the association of this being a Conjuring universe movie onto anything and it will sell tickets. But what I do think, I don't know if they've come out and said it that they're not doing it anymore, but it seems like this was kind of like the last outing for Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in this role as Ed and Lorraine Warren. For me, the movie seemed less about being creative and innovative with the horror and the scares, and it's more sort of a send-off for these characters, which kind of, with us going back through these movies recently, I feel like they deserve it. I feel like, especially with some of the later ones, they are quite well fleshed out and developed characters, and the ending that they ultimately get in this movie is quite sweet and heartfelt, and they did put some thought into it, and it still stays true and like relates to the actual real life story of the Warrens and does them justice, because they do this whole like, you know, they do the the Conjuring Star Wars text text on screen thing sort of towards the end, where it gives you a little bit of detail about, you know, after they hit retirement and sort of their final days and how that all came to an end. But it's one of those weird ones where the Warrens have sort of been, I guess, controversial figures in the field, in that these movies kind of celebrate them in the sense that they were, wayfinders in this field of like they were kind of exploring a lot of this stuff at a time when it was really seen as like a subject of mockery, and if you even thought about like believing in like all this occult spiritual kind of stuff, then you were sort of instantly made pariahs, I guess. And it celebrates the fact that they were willing and like brave enough to kind of explore that stuff, and not immediately shut people down and saying like, no, none of this is real. Like, but then obviously like there's the other hand of people like actual like scientific professionals kind of exploring a lot of these famous cases that they've also had a hand in, and saying that the Warrens were kind of very like overly dramatic and didn't help with a lot of them, because they kept on coming in and suggesting that these were real like paranormal events, and they thought that was like quite damaging behavior. But at least like with the characters played here, like I think we've spent a lot of time with them, and I think you do connect with them a lot more than you think watching these movies, because going back through them, I don't think any of the Conjuring movies I would actively describe as like a good film. A lot of them are very fun. They're fun to sit down and watch, but outside of sort of the first one, I don't think they really do anything to reinvent the genre or to innovate or to do something different in the horror sphere. I think they are quite formulaic in their way, and this one's not really any different. We do get a lot more sort of insight into sort of their family life in this one. A large part of it revolves around their daughter being more grown up now. We get introduced to like a new character who is her boyfriend turned fiance in this movie, and a little bit about their relationship and how the Warrens become like more of an extended family, and like they're passing things on to the next generation. And this movie opens with sort of a flashback to give context to the case they end up working in this one, and that is sort of it's the first demon they ever encountered when they became paranormal experts. And I'm gonna forget, like I forget the actors' names who play it, but like they did quite well of quite a good job of casting them, playing like a young version of Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in these roles.
This is the names on the screen.
Here they are. Yeah, like they bear quite a good likeness to them. And that's why I'm thinking, like, I'm very careful to say this is, like, the last of this version of the Warrens. Like, this is their send-off, because I can only imagine they'll probably, in the future, go, hey, we want to make more Conjuring movies. Let's just go earlier in the timeline and explore, like, some of their earlier cases and
passing the baton.
Bring some of these newer guys in. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty much exactly what you would expect out of a Conjuring movie, which is why I'd say, like, if you enjoy the Conjuring movies, then that's the only reason I'd recommend this, because you're probably going to like this one. It is another Conjuring movie, and just ties up the series, like, quite nicely. And outside of that, yeah, it's fine. It's fine as a movie. Like, nothing special, nothing new. Obligatory Annabelle cameo.
Hell yeah.
I think the one thing is that, like, it'll be sad to see Patrick Wilson not doing this no more.
Yeah, man. I hope he's got some other stuff lined up.
I really do. Like, there's people who will sort of associate Patrick Wilson with other stuff. I think this and Insidious are the big ones for me. Like, I really associate him with, like, that horror sphere.
Definitely.
But we'll see where it goes from here.
Sometimes I get it mixed up with Will Arnett. I think they've got
I can see that. Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, oh, he did that. Oh no, wait, that was Will Arnett.
Oh no, he was not
like,
Lego Batman.
Yeah, he was not in Arrested Development.
He was not BoJack Horseman.
The one I get mixed up with is Flaked, which was a very small niche Netflix show that Will Arnett did that I really loved, and I think got cancelled after like 2 series, obviously. But there's always a little bit in my mind when we're listing Patrick Wilson stuff, then we're like, oh, there's a Netflix. Oh no, that was Will Arnett.
Oh, what was that? That improv like murder show he did?
Oh yes, murder.
No. Shit. Hopefully, we get more Patrick Wilson horror stuff in the future, because I think he excels at that. I think he's great.
We need some more Patty Wills in our lives. And last up, The Paper. Yeah, this is a surprising recommend from me. I'm going to add a new qualifier here. This is the new spin-off from The Office, which is something that I don't think anyone thought we needed. Spin-off of The Office. I think it's something they've probably been trying to develop for a long time. They tried to do a spin-off with Dwight back in the day. Yeah. They did a backdoor pilot for that in the show itself. Never got off the ground. But yeah, they finally managed to find a way to spin off from The Office. And tell you what, it surprisingly works, and I really enjoyed this. The idea is it's the same documentary crew that filmed The Office and are now relocating to a different company in Ohio that run a newspaper. That's how they link it back to The Office, and Oscar from The Office now works at this other place, so there's that link there. But I think it manages to not really lean on The Office as much as you think it would. I think it doesn't try and spark the nostalgia that I think a lot of people feared it would. I think it is genuinely trying to be its own comedy, and I think that really works in its favour. I think The Office, the American one especially, has kind of become our generation's Friends in terms of it's kind of cool to hate it. Because it's kind of the what do you call it? Oh my god,
What do you call it?
What's the word?
Schadenfreude.
What's the fucking word I'm looking for? Where it's like really important and oh my god, it's gone.
It's got the cultural
I really want to
impact.
use that word. I really want to use it. Oh my god. It's right there. It's on the tip of my tongue.
He's thinking of the,
Tip of my tongue.
zeitgeist.
Give me half an hour. I think The Office is, because it is just kind of one of the main big sitcoms that got really popular, I think because of that, a lot of people are now wanting to be a bit counterculture and kind of turning against it, and the tide seems to turn against these things eventually in time, and it becomes, kind of the cool stance to be like, it's not actually that good. Jim's a dick. Actually, hate him. Michael's autistic. Shit like that. But tell you what, I've stood proud on the Office. I love The Office. I was really into that mockumentary style growing up. It was really big around then. Modern Family, Parks and Rec. So you know what? I had I guess better expectations maybe than most going into this. I went in with an open mind, and I think the comedy is a lot less kind of chaotic and fast paced as The Office. It takes a bit more care. The episodes are a little bit longer at half an hour rather than 20 minutes, which I think lets certain things breathe a bit. It does take a couple of episodes to find its feet, to get going, but these things are a given with a show like this, especially one living under the shadow of a predecessor and trying to create its own vibe and its own tone. But yeah, that being said, I think it manages to find a kind of calmer, slower comedy style where it's more about the character interactions than kind of quick-paced jokes within the dialogue. Yeah. And I think the cast are all funny. They all brought it. Domhnall Gleeson, surprisingly good in a lead comedic role here, doing quite a hammy American accent. His Irish does break through on certain words, but I thought everyone in here was great. I think Oscar was the perfect character to bring back because he was kind of one of the ones at the end of The Office that didn't have kind of an overall sort of finishing arc. Like everyone got kind of their big ending, whereas Oscar's was a bit more open-ended, I think, in the end, and he was a bit more of a side character than bringing back like Jim or Michael or one of the big ones. Like that would kind of overshadow, I think, the rest of them. I think Oscar's the perfect fit because he fits right in and doesn't overpower any of the new cast that were kind of supposed to be getting behind and enjoying instead, or as well as. I think it takes a few episodes to get going, but once it does, I think it's really got some legs, and I hope they go for at least a couple more seasons. Like, it's not a given these days, especially for sitcoms and comedies, especially in the streaming world. Like, it's not a given to get past 2 or 3 seasons anymore. Like, I don't think they're going to make it to the 9 that The Office did, and they're not going to have 20 episode seasons either. No. But so I don't think it's got that room to breathe that those kind of classic sitcoms had. But I think it's done well with the time and the episodes that it has, and all I can ask for is a couple more seasons. I think these characters are going to have good development. Yeah. So yeah, all in all, a good time. Well done, Greg Daniels. That's it for September. Yeah, a bit of a drier month, but that's fine. That's less editing for me. Thank you for watching HAZMAT, reviewing everything they saw in September 2025.
If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more stuff like this in the future, you can support the channel by leaving a like or a comment. You can hit the subscribe button as well as a notification bell. That way you'll be alerted to all our more recent uploads. And as always, all our socials will be listed down in the description.
And join us next time where I down a beer and jump out a car.
And I'm just going to put my shoes on, walk out the door, just keep going. Miles, 300 miles. In fact, 500 miles. Because I'd walk 500 miles. And I'd walk 500 more.
Just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door.
I'll see you then.
Good night.